Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica. And today we are doing 1 minute book recs. It is out like almost a week later because I've been gone. So we won't discuss exactly where I was, but there will be signs.
It's all right there. It's all right there.
You know,
Yeah.
there's signs.
Mm-hmm. You've got a little bit of color going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yay. Okay. So 1 minute book recs. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Before we get started though,
I want to do a public service announcement.
oh, okay.
If you are in a public place and you are spraying sunblock on your children, please be careful.
Because you had your Kindle or a physical book?
No, I was walking through Disneyland and this lady was spraying her younger kids, and so they're younger, and the backs of my legs got hit with sunblock and I broke out because I can't handle sunblock. Sunblock in the sun actually makes me burn, and it's happened to me twice. Once I did it myself thinking I normally don't use sunblock because sometimes I do have reactions, but I thought I had like the safe kind, and at Disney World, and the backs of my legs just fried because
Yeah.
it's like almost like a chemical burn type situation. And then you're like, oh, you need to use this sunblock. And I'm like, that's really expensive. So I'm like, I'm just not going to use sunblock. And then when we were walking, I felt something hit me and I'm like, what was that? And I saw the lady and I'm like, oh, but I couldn't smell it. Like I wiped the backs of my legs and I'm like, well, I don't smell anything. I just felt it. And then the next day I texted you that picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in that spot where it got me. And the leg that I felt it more on actually was more so than the other leg. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy that just walking by somebody who's randomly spraying your kids and I break out.
Yeah.
And then the lady on the plane next to me ordered mint tea. And I'm like, oh dear gosh.
Right. You're like,
This is not going to go well either.
I was just thinking too, I forgot my earrings. My sunblock is expensive because it's typically 100 SPF and it's PABA free and it's hypoallergenic and it has to be all this crazy stuff. So that's why it's expensive. But I break out with any kind of sunblock that doesn't have all that stuff. So I break out in the sun. I'm just screwed either way. So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So watch your sunblock, people.
Watch your sunblock, people. Mandy might.
And thank you to the lady who sat next to me on the plane that did not spill her mint tea on me.
True.
She ordered that. I was like, oh, please don't let there be any sort of bumps.
No turbulence. No turbulence.
Yeah. I'm highly allergic to mint, in case anybody's like, why does Mandy care about mint tea?
Yeah.
Yep. Highly allergic to mint here.
Okay.
My shirt.
So.
I like crooked? I don't know. Anyway.
Just your shoulders.
Really?
No. Well, when you do that, it makes you crooked.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
Okay.
We should get started. People are going to get bored. They're tuning out. They're fast forwarding.
I'm trying to get you back on track.
Hey.
Okay. What do you want to tell them?
I'm a little bitter about the sunblock incident, okay?
Okay. But what do you want to tell them to do?
Don't spray your sunblock in public, people. Okay.
It's not what I meant, but that's good. Okay.
All right. We would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join the crazy train here because we have oops, I'm on the wrong side. Wow. Like we just take like a week off of recording and I can't handle it anymore.
I know.
We have these wonderful Calla Reed books to give away and we are really narrowing in on this being ready for us to do because once we have 1,500 subscribers, we're giving those away. So hit that subscribe button, tell your friends to come on over. We are fun.
We are. Yeah. Okay, so this reading week that we're talking about is the week before you left, or the week that like you left a few days before the end of that week. So do you remember what books you read? Thank God we have journals.
Yep.
Okay. So how many? Yes. So how was that reading week?
I refreshed my memory in my reading journal.
Yep.
It was pretty good. And actually, I am not looking forward to the end of July when we have to do our wrap up, because I've hit it out of the park with quite a few 5 stars already.
Yeah, same.
It's making me nervous.
Yep. Yep. So how many
What
books?
a horrible problem to have.
I know, it's just such a horrible problem. So how many books did you have that week?
Oh, 8.
Okay. I had 6, which means you're going first.
That is never how this works. All right.
You ready though? Like, do you have the timer? Are you ready?
Are you feeling okay?
No, I feel really out of whack here.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So my first book is actually the conclusion to the Beautiful Hearts duet, which I talked about last week. So my first book is Long Live the Beautiful Hearts. And this, I really wanted to talk about this because I read the first book and I said, I can't really rate it because it's really, I feel when you have a duet or a trilogy, it's really hard to give a rating until you finish the whole series. Because it's kind of like asking somebody to stop halfway through a book and be like, okay, give it your rating. Like, you don't know till you finish the whole thing how you're going to feel about it. So this is by Emma Scott, and this is a love triangle. So, but she promised it wasn't your ordinary love triangle. So I'm trying to work through all of her backlist. So I decided I would go ahead and be brave and try it. So we have Autumn, Connor, and Weston. Connor and Weston are best friends. Connor has a lot of loyalty, or excuse me. Never mind. I'll just edit that out. Connor and Weston have been best friends since they're younger. And this kind of ends up in a weird love triangle because they both befriend Autumn and they both have feelings for her, but only one of them actually makes her his girlfriend. And then they both go off to war. And when they come back, the dynamic is very different because something has been happening in I'm calling it a threesome, but it's not a threesome, between the 3 of them that kind of sets everything sort of off kilter. And I don't want to give anything away, but I will say this was not your ordinary love triangle, and I really enjoyed it because it's not set up really like a love triangle.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So I rated it 5 stars. I really loved it. And I bet nobody ever thought that love triangle and 5 stars would ever be together in my review.
No, I'm honestly shocked. Absolutely shocked. Does that mean you're willing to try more love triangles?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought you'd say.
I had one successful, and now we're done.
You're done. You're just done at that point. Okay. So my first book of the week was one I've been waiting on forever. The audio just came out, and that is The 16th Need by Calla Reed. Like I said, audio just came out. I was so excited. I've been waiting forever. Mandy, thank you for the book for our anniversary. I think this is what you sent me.
Yes.
But this is about Sable and Sam. They're from 2 different worlds, 2 different sides of the sides of the track, I guess you'd say. Sam comes from an affluent family, and Sable and her sisters come from, their mom's an addict. She's addicted to things. Their life is not as great. Sam is on the football team and he needs a tutor. Something's happened. His grades aren't that great, and he just doesn't quite understand the English stuff that they're doing. They're reading Anna Karenina, which, don't get me started on that book. I do not like that book either. So anyhow, and that is how they meet. She tutors him, which leads to a relationship type situation. And then something happens. And then we're back to, like I said, not quite a year later, maybe a year later, where they come back together and she's a babysitter for his little sister. This is told in like dual timelines. We get flashbacks. I gave it 4 stars. It was Calla Reed. I mean, I love Calla. Her writing is amazing. And you love it. You love this book.
I did love that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I like the wrong, I don't know if the wrong side of the tracks, like,
it's 2 worlds, 2 different worlds.
Yes, the 2 worlds, like very different. And then I just like that.
Yeah.
And
so
I felt for Sable, like,
I know, her sisters, and yeah. What else you got for me?
Okay. So next I have No One But Us by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This is a redone version of Bloom. So Bloom was one of her very first books, and then she redid it in 2018 as No One But Us. And I love Elizabeth O'Rourke. This book just, I liked it. It just wasn't what I'm used to from her, because everything that I've been reading by her is all her newer, like, 2020 and on type stuff. So this book, definitely, you can tell that this is like her earlier work, because her characters are not as well, like, you don't connect as well with them as you do in her other books, if that makes sense. This is college, and we have brother's friend, and so Elle is realized that this mentor person in her life, who's also like one of her dad's friends or coworkers or something like that, thinks like more should happen between the two of them, and she thinks it's all innocent, and he's like wanting a relationship with her, like a sexual one, and it's not like hot or anything like that. It's like, ew.
Mhm.
And so she goes to with her best friend to their beach house for the summer, and this is where her and her best friend's older brother are kind of reunited, but something's been going on, and I don't know, her best friend's just kind of mean to her. Like, I was like, why are you friends with her? Like, this, it just seemed weird. It seemed like they were in very different places in
Mhm.
their lives. And so I just didn't, I mean, that just didn't resonate with me. It kind of took away from the story of the other two, if that makes sense. I still liked it though.
Okay.
Just wasn't a favorite like I'm used to getting from her.
Okay.
Anyway, let's
All
move
right.
on.
Okay. You're gonna laugh at my next book, but
Why?
because of what it is. We
I would
just
never do such a thing. Now, you just calm down over there.
uh-huh. Okay. So we just had our convincing my bestie video go out that was monster romance. And I have another monster romance to talk about. So that is Monster Pucker by Cleo Evans and Ashley Benet. Or Bennett. I'm not sure if it's Bennett or Benet, but okay. So let's talk about this. This is a novella. This is very short. One of my friends in my one of the people that I have in a reading group sent me this. So Heather, if you're watching, thank you, because she does watch every once in a while. So this is crazy. This is just a short novella. Like I said, it's pretty much just monster smut, but it is about Holly, and it is kind of, they're calling it a holiday novella. There wasn't a lot of holiday in there, but okay. But Holly and Klaus and Flurry. So Klaus and Flurry are both hockey players, but they're also monsters. Klaus is a Krampus, and Flurry is a like a Yeti, is what he is. Anyhow, and Holly's human. So Holly's a sports reporter, and she ends up, something happens, and she ends up getting stuck in a locker in the men's changing room after one of their games, and that is where she overhears our two main male characters getting it on because they're in a secret relationship. And then when they discover her and they let her out, they realize that she is their third. She is also their fated mate. And then it just leads to a hell of a lot of monster smashing. So I gave it 3 stars. It was a lot of monster sex. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you just want some dirty smut, here you go. Next.
So my next book is The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea by Elizabeth O'Rourke.
Okay.
So we have Drew, who has been asked by her rock star boyfriend, Six, to go on a family vacation with him. But the trick is they actually broke up, but he wants them to stay together. And so she agrees to go on like a kind of I'll give it another try type situation. But they're not together, and she's not really sure what she wants. Her life is kind of falling apart because she's also a rock star, and she's being accused of things, and let's just say things are not always what they seem in the tabloids. And so she agrees to go. So she gets there, and guess who does not show up? Six. he has been detained somewhere else, and so he's going to be late to the family vacation in Hawaii. So she is stuck there with his parents and his brother Joshua. And Joshua, she feels very strongly, doesn't like her. Like, he actually told her parents or his parents to keep an eye on her because she might steal the silverware and, stuff like that. And they are then forced to spend time together. And the more time together that they spend, how those things work when you're in Hawaii, right? And then eventually Six shows up. And maybe Drew kind of starts to remember why she was ready for that relationship to be over and starts, seeing things in Joshua. But how does that work out? Like, you go on vacation with one brother and you go home with the other? Like, And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about Elizabeth O'Rourke is so good at writing her characters that you really connect with, because you can see this, like, you feel this, like that, you could see her struggles.
I just couldn't imagine going on vacation with one brother and coming home with the other.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Okay. So the next book that I have is like one of the only BJ Alpha books that I hadn't read. So that is Tate by BJ Alpha. This is the second book in her Storm Enterprise series. Owen is coming out in August, so I'm really excited for that. So this is about Tate and Ava. Ava's a foster child, and one night she's at a party. It's her 18th birthday, and she sees this hot guy across the room, and she knows something's coming for her that she's not really looking forward to. And she just kind of wants one night for herself. So they end up having a one night stand at this party, and it's like an all night stand kind of a thing. The next day, Tate goes downstairs. He's at his parents' house. So he goes downstairs to have breakfast, and he realizes that Ava is here. His parents host foster children, and she is one of the foster kids that is there for the summer. And he loses his mind because he's in his 30s and she just turned 18 the night before. And so he breaks off their situation, and he doesn't see her again until 4 years later when she is an intern at Storm Enterprises. And then he decides that he can't let her go. He has not been able to forget about her, the whole thing. So this is an age gap. And second chance, so good. I give it 5 stars. Loved it. I love the intensity of Tate. He was just, whew. Yeah.
Is that angsty then?
A little bit, yeah.
And do you have to read those in order?
But you already read Shaw.
Oh, so I could read Tate.
Mm-hmm.
But yep. For anybody else, you don't need to read them in order? Okay.
Nope. No, you don't, but they're so good. And they're strong on the breeding kink. Again, it's BJ. So. Okay, what else you got?
All right. So my next book is another Elizabeth O'Rourke book. And then this will be my last book of hers. So I've completed all of her backlist. And the reason I really wanted to do this is because we were doing the interview with her. So if you've not watched that, go watch it. She is hilarious, super down to earth. I really enjoyed getting to chat with her. And I'm still a little like awestruck because I've just loved her books.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was watching the interview back, and there's a lot of times where I'm like looking over to the side. I was in my car for the interview, and there was some noisy people next to us, and I was hoping that it didn't pick them up. I don't think it did, but you see me like side-eyeing these guys, this group of guys. I was in Seattle. My daughter was at the hospital, so it was a whole thing. But like this group of guys the whole time, like, could you be quiet? So if there's dirty looks, I'm not giving them to Mandy or Elizabeth. It's the guys next to me.
Well, now I'm concerned that you were, because that didn't even cross my mind until you brought it up.
You just see me looking over like, oh my gosh, would they stop? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyhow, sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say the most interesting thing from that interview for me, I think, actually was learning that the parallel series is so like has not done well for her, and that's actually how I found her, was that
Mhm,
series, and then I told you and you
mhm.
read it, and then that kind of is how we sort of spiraled
Yeah.
that way.
And I'd had it on my Kindle. Like after I read The Surviving Trace, I had it and I started and read the first like 2 chapters and I wasn't able to get into it because I just love The Surviving Trace. And so it sat there for years until you read it and you're like, what are you doing? Go read it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
such a great author. But yeah, that
Mhm.
just blew my mind. So
Mhm.
this
Yep.
was not part of our 1 minute book recs, but if you've not read the Parallel series, do yourself a
Read it.
favor and go read it.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's talk about this one. This is the last book that I had to read in the Devil series, and I did not write down what number it was. I just know it was the last one I needed to read, but I kind of read them out of order, so sorry.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
this is The Devil You Know by Elizabeth Orwick, obviously. So we have lawyers Gemma and Ben. Ben we see a little bit in the previous book as he's helping somebody with some issues that they have as an attorney. And so they are both working at this law firm and they are trying to both make partner. And Gemma does not like Ben at all. It's like one of those, oops, I forgot the timer. Sorry. 2 minute book rec. Uh, And Jenna is probably one of the most relatable characters I've ever read because she's insecure. She comes with some baggage and she struggles to trust people. And her inner dialogue was stuff that I related to because she's like, people tell you, like, oh, to always have like good intentions, don't listen to like all your worries and all this stuff. And she's like, but what about that small percent of the time when your intuition is actually right? And like, you shouldn't have done this. And so she just really questions Ben's motives a lot during this. Anyways, so they are assigned to work a case together, and you know how that's going to play out. They are going to start to fall for each other. You can switch me back.
Okay.
But Gemma doesn't want that. So, absolutely loved it. It's 5 stars. And now you can see where my dilemma is heading for how I'm going to be at the end of July. So, I may have my top 10
No, no.
all tied for first place. No, just
All
kidding.
Elizabeth O'Rourke. So
Oh no, I have some more
you
on
have
there.
more than
It's
that.
like coming. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my next book, you guys know I love post-apocalyptic. You know I love post-apocalyptic.
Yes.
And then this one is like post-apocalyptic with vampires, and I was like,
Oh,
down, down. Okay. So this is called Taken by Fate. It's by Shannon Mayer. It is the first book in her Alpha Territory series. So this is about Sienna. She has been captured. So basically, the veil has fallen, and as humans now, we know that there's vampires, there's um, werewolves or shifters, and then there are a few other things that we didn't quite touch on in this book yet that are out there. And our government, being our government, agreed to give people as tributes and donations to these people. Like you have so many. So we start out in Seattle, and Sienna is taken by this group to be a tribute or given to this group. She finagles it to get in there because she's trying to save her brother who's gone missing, and she believes he's been taken by the werewolf group. Turns out when she gets taken, it's not to go to the werewolves, it's to go to the vampires. This is kind of like Hunger Games because people get they don't all show up. They don't all, our government, we give them all these people, like some of them are to be sacrificed. Some of them are to be like concubines. Some of them are to be maids and servants and all that stuff. So Sienna is taken to this court for the vampires, and she is kind of like a tribute where they're going through like these games. We don't know what she's going to win in the end. If she wins, we don't know what's going to happen, but that is where she meets this guy. He is the bastard son to the king of them. I honestly, I gave it 4 stars. I read it on the 4th of July while I was cooking and stuff and getting ready to go do 4th of July stuff. I plan to continue on because I need to know what happens. So, yeah. I don't think I did it justice, but it was good. It was.
okay.
Okay. What else you got?
All right. My next book is the next book in the Sugarland Creek series by Brooke Montgomery. And Jessica, I'm starting to think Brooke Montgomery might just not be an author for me anymore.
Okay.
I really liked the first book in this series, and then the second book was a 4 for me.
Mhm.
And now this book is a 3. And I'm just like, I don't know that I want I don't think I'm gonna keep reading in this series when
Mhm.
the next book comes out. I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay. Well, tell us about the book.
So
So,
yes, so this was A Fall with Me by Brooke Montgomery. And this was Ellie and Landon. And I was very excited about it because it has amnesia in it. And I love that trope. So maybe my expectations were just too high. But one thing that I kind of got frustrated in the previous book and in this book is that she goes back and we kind of like, it feels like rehashing before we get to the actual part of what happened at the end of the book. So you have what happened at the end of book 2, and we don't pick up there. The first 50% of this book, at least, is kind of rehashing the past. And then we get to the point where we were at the end of the second book, and that just it gets old for me. I'm sorry. So we have Ellie, who is a barrel racer who's been being trained by Noah, Landon's sister, at the Sugarland Creek, at their ranch there. And Landon has a crush on Ellie, basically. But what I don't understand is Ellie is just mean to him. She doesn't like him. And it's not just like the way we saw it in the previous book. It was more like he would be like, hey, you want to dance? And she'd be like, no, I broke my toe. And so he goes and gets her ice. And then she like walks away just fine. Like it's things like that that we see. But in this book, I felt like she was just awful to him. Like she's just downright mean. And we don't understand why she doesn't like him for a while. And nobody around knows, and it felt petty, it felt mean. I felt like she was kind of like a bully to him, but yet he continues to pine after her, Jessica, for years while
no.
she treats him this way. And then she finally gets amnesia, which we see at the end of the other book. Okay, we
Okay.
see that at the end of the other book, and it takes freaking forever to get to that point in this book. And maybe that's my frustration because I wanted to get to that part. I don't
Mhm.
know. And then he makes his move basically because she doesn't remember him, and they like I just I
No.
okay.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry. I gave it a 3. I just yeah, and I'm alone. I am so alone on this because everybody else is giving it 4s and 5s and ranting and raving about how great it is. I just yeah.
I part of the reason why I haven't read the second book and now the third book is because she does that in both those books where we see something at the end of the first book and at the end of the second book that sets up the next book. But you have to, when you get into that book, it takes forever to get to that point that you see at the end of the second book, which it
Mhm.
sounds like it did the same thing with this one. That would drive me insane, first of all. And no man is going to hang out and be a doormat for years.
Exactly. So I think I could have gotten past all that, but this guy, like, we want him to be like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't sit well. It doesn't serve his personality that he just sits and basically doesn't do anything for like almost 4 years and pines for her during
Mhm.
this time.
Mhm.
But again, I'm alone.
But that's okay. I'm alone on a lot of mine that I don't like. So it's all good. But my next book is also Amnesia. And I liked it. Would you like to hear about that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So
I'll
I
take good notes.
okay. So I read Contempt by A. Zavarelli. I like A. Zavarelli. I've never read an A. Zavarelli book that I didn't like. This is about Bianca and Madden. So Madden was a rock star. This is a rock star romance. And someone close to him, two people close to him, one was murdered, one went missing. And the one that went missing was Bianca, who he has been in love with since he was a teenager. And they had a friendship. They had a situationship going on there. And now it's been 5 years later, like we're after that, 5 years later, he's given up his music career. He now belongs to an MC in Las Vegas. And he doesn't know what happened to Bianca, but he is the prosecutor thinks that he did it, and he's a suspect in the murder of both of these people. And so he's just waiting to get hauled into jail. Well, one day he just cannot let go of this. Like he doesn't know what happened to Bianca. And one day he's walking down the street in Vegas and he hears this song that he and Bianca used to sing together all the time. And that is when he meets Lyric, who is our heroine, who doesn't know. She just woke up one day in the hospital in New Orleans and has no memory of what happened to her. But he insists that she is this Bianca. He has her taken and brought to the MC, to the compound where he keeps her at his house, because he knows that she's that person, and she could get him from off from these murder charges. But they still don't know what happened to the other person, or how the other person, who murdered the other person. It's a thing. It is a long story, as far as it's one of her longer books, because you see their relationship from the time, we see in some flashbacks, from the time that they were in, they met in a mental institution, or a rehab. It was rehab, not mental institution. It was a rehab situation when they were teenagers. And then we see how these relationships came about and what happened. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Question: do you have to read the other 2 books first?
No, I have, and it mentions a few characters, but I read those several years ago, and so I knew who the characters were, but I didn't quite remember right away. It took a while to jog my memory, but it wouldn't have mattered had I not read it. It is a complete standalone.
Sweet.
Yep. Yes. The other books, though, are really good, so I suggest reading all 3, but you don't have to read them in order.
Okay.
What's your next book?
Well, I don't think we really need to switch over for this. My next book was the Honeysuckles book by January Rain, which we did for the Monsters Convincing one. So you can go and hear all about that in our Monster Book Recs, which was out last week, and Convincing My Bestie.
Yep.
So I don't think we need to rehash that. Do we?
No, it came out on Thursday, so it just came out.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Go check it out.
Okay, so sorry, frog my throat. You're gonna want to hear this next one too, because we've talked about this. This is my last book of the week.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this. So this is After the Shut Up Ring. It is by Kate C. Wells. Mandy and I both wanted to read this one. Oh my gosh, I loved it. So this is not going to be for everyone. Our heroine, Angie, has an STI in this book, one that you cannot get rid of, and that is a huge part of the plot. And so I understand that, Kate C. Wells even says at the beginning it's not going to be for everyone, but oh my gosh, this was the most realistic, down-to-earth situation ever. So at the beginning of this book, we are at Angie's wedding. She's going to marry her long-term boyfriend. She has 2 little girls by him. They got pregnant when she was 16 and in high school. And he's up at the altar and he is saying his vows to her, and they're a complete joke, to the point where his groomsmen are in on it. And so they complete his sentence. And so she knows that he did this, they rehearsed it beforehand, and it's completely degrading towards her. And so she flat out says, no, I won't marry you. She finally sticks up for herself after he's been doing this kind of stuff for years. And when she does, she realizes that Brandon, her best friend's brother, is out of his chair and coming, I don't know what he was going to do, but he's out of his chair. So then we go forward in this situation to see what happens with her now as a single mom to her 2 girls. Brandon has always been in love with her, but she was a year younger than him. And when he was in high school, he was a freshman. His dad said to him, wait, hey, I get that you like her, but you're a freshman in high school and she's in junior high. It's only a year, but really think about that. And so he's always stayed away. And then she met this other guy that has been really cruel to her and beaten her down, just mentally for years. And so she has to overcome that. She's not ready for a relationship, but I loved their story. It was just the representation of the STIs STI I thought was spot on, and how you would go about that in a relationship, a new relationship. And she got it because her baby's dad was cheating on her when she was pregnant. So that's how she got it. And then just their relationship, you're not, there were some people that didn't like it because of her and how she didn't have a strong backbone. But I've said it before, if you're being talked to and talked down to from the time you're 16 until you're in your early 20s, you're not going to snap out of it and get a backbone 2 days later. That's not how it works. It takes years to get to that point, and it takes years to come out of that and to develop who you are and to finally stand up for yourself. So I loved it. I gave it 5 stars.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Is this your last one?
No, but I have two more.
Okay.
So my next book is, where did the timer go? Okay. My next book is Liberty Falls by Lee. How did we decide to say her last name?
Jacqua?
Jacqua?
Yes.
Who knows? So this is part of our Holly Knight series. So I read this for the 4th of July. We have Aria and Cameron. Aria is the police chief and Cameron is the captain of the firefighters. And they are rivals. They've had this banter and they bet each other and always trying to one up each other since they were little kids. And now they are at their 4th of July, like, town festival type thing, and they're doing fundraisers, and her booth she picked to do funnel cakes because they did it last year and they made a ton of money. And she's at the city hall finding out that Cameron also picked funnel cakes and there was a mix up, and so they both are doing funnel cakes that day for their fundraising. And so of course that leads to stress and competition between the two of them of who can one up the other one. And this is a Holly Knight novella, excuse me, so you know that it's going to end up in a smutty good time, and it was. So solid 4 stars. I rate it for basically what it is, and it was great. The one thing that I kept finding funny is that she kept talking about how there's not much that happens in their town because it's such a small town. So I was thinking of like where you and I grow up or where I currently live. Like population 20,000 people.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's not a small town at all.
Small. No. I looked up ours when we were in California. My sister-in-law was like, what's the population of your town? And I looked up, I was like, 5,000. So she's like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Yours is smaller. I'm gonna assume yours is a lot smaller. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where I live right now is way smaller than 5,000. Mm-hmm. And then where we grew up was smaller than that too.
Yeah. That's funny. Yep. Okay. What's your last book?
Okay, my last book. Oh, I'm so excited about Jessica. I got the ARC for this book. And I was very excited because the last time this author had an ARC, I didn't get it. And I was very sad, but I still read the book and I loved it. So, do I have to set the timer?
Yes.
Dang it. Okay. So my next book is Catch the Sun by Jennifer Hartmann. And oh my gosh, this book. I loved it so much. So we have Ella. Ella and Max know each other when they're 7 years old, and then Ella abruptly moves away. And now we're in present day, and Ella is back, and it's high school, and she's back in this town again with her mom, and she is there because this is where they move after Ella's brother is put on death row for a horrific murder. And she deals with there are some super dark elements in this book because her brother's on death row. But it deals with the fact of she struggles. She loves her brother. Her brother was her whole world. He was her older brother. And that protective thing. And he did stuff with her all the time. And so she struggles with the fact that she now hates him for what he's done, but that she also still loves him because he's her brother. My time is already up and I've barely talked about the book. And so that part for me was just really interesting. That would be really hard. You always hear about the victims of these crimes, but the people who love the person who committed this crime, in a way, they're just as much of a victim. And in a way, I think their burden can be heavier in some ways because their loved one is still alive, but yet he's responsible for all these horrific things. That, I just thought about that while I was reading. That's a really hard place to be in. Not to take away from people who are victims, you know what I mean? But I think that those are people who are victims also, and they're kind of the forgotten ones. And just how she's treated in high school and things. Well, she then kind of reconnects with Max. She meets a wonderful girl named Bren, and Bren is so happy that she actually puts an exclamation point behind her name. And so through the whole book, Bren is Bren with an exclamation point because Bren's just super happy and friends with, her, and just really kind of helps change things for her. And so her and Max start to kind of rekindle some of their friendship, which leads to a little bit more. But Max is also dealing with a lot of stuff going on in his own personal life. His dad is an alcoholic, and he has to help his dad a lot. And his twin brother kind of is getting to live the life that Max should be getting to live, but he's getting that because Max is the one who's taking care of everything, if that makes sense. And then some great, like, there are some major things that happen in this book that I will not talk about because I don't want to give any spoilers that I did not see coming. And oh my gosh, it is phenomenal. So great. It is going to be one of my favorites for the year. I absolutely loved it. And it's also very different from what I like typical storylines. Like, you just don't read storylines like this a lot. So it's phenomenal. Do yourself a favor and go get it. It also has some very like lighthearted things woven into all of like this deep stuff that's going on. And there's like a Winnie the Pooh quote to start it, and that kind of goes throughout the book. And I'm a huge Disney and Winnie the Pooh fan, like hardcore Winnie the Pooh. I have a lot of Winnie the Pooh collectibles in my sort of library.
It's just the library. We refer to it as the library.
I appreciate that you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I technically, isn't there like a certain number you're supposed to have to be a library?
1,000.
Yeah, so
I told my husband this morning that I needed more bookshelves, and he's like, well, how about we just get rid of some of the books? And I was like,
what's wrong with him?
Dare you?
That's rude.
So rude. Yeah, he's in the doghouse, obviously. That's just wrong. We don't say that. So anyhow. All right. Yeah. So that was our week.
That was our week.
Okay.
Our reading week.
Okay.
Well, make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. Hit that notification button because we like to do surprise drop videos mostly on Wednesdays. And we still have more author interviews coming. So you definitely want to make sure that you are tuned in for those. And follow us on Instagram for an extra entry into our drawing for when we get to 1,500. Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.